JavaScript. Okay, so the app is ready now. So let me go inside that folder. So the app got created in demo app. So I need to jump inside that folder. So cd. Okay, so I don't have to do anything. So to start running the app, I just have to type in npm start. That should kick the node to start this app. So let's see. So what happens, it builds the scripts and it tries to compile and stuff. Once it's compiled, you should see it in a browser. So it runs in a localhost 3000. One issue with Create React app is that it doesn't support IE browser off the shelf. So if you try to create an app with the Webpack, it should support IE. So you can make this React app support IE browser as well. So you need to install packages for Babel for IE support. So once you do that, that should work. What I'll do is I'll just run it in its browser. Yeah, so we have the React app running. So this is the default things which it provides when you try to install it from Create React app. If I go inside, so like I showed, the folders are all there. Packages, we have all the packages. So public folder has all the index file. So if I go into the index file, so you see it's just a skeleton, nothing much you will find here. It's just you have a div with an ID root. So this is where the React is getting rendered. So what I mean is, if I go to the app, so if I click on view page source, so it's just the index HTML what is actually rendered first. So what React does is, on top of this, it modifies the virtual DOM. So it dynamically adds in content on the fly. That's what it is. So that can be done through JavaScript or any scripting language, right? So let's see, where is this this placeholder getting replaced. So that's happening in the source. So source, if you see, it has basic set of files. So when you're starting up a new application, you can completely remove all these files. It's all not needed. You can create it fresh, I would say. So let's see. So it starts with a file called app.js. So it can be any file. You just have to name it, or it can be main or anything. Only thing is that you have to hook it up into index.js. So it's basically like when a web app, it generally looks for index HTML, index.js, all those files. So index is must. So when you create React app, if you want to change something in the naming thing, then it can be configured. So you need to look into the configuration of Create React app. So if you see index.js file, it's just a plain JavaScript file, right? So if you see, it imports React DOM, React CSS, and app. So this is a component. So like I told, React is made up of several components. So in the root, it's always a single component, and this will have its own nested components. So what we'll do is we can try to create a new component, custom component, and let's try to render that. So before we do that, let's see what is inside this app component. So it need not be app. You can give it any name you want. So I can give it, name it as main app. Only thing is I need to replace the same thing over here. So if you see React DOM, React is doing all the work. It's trying to render the main app in the root. So JavaScript, basic JavaScript, you are going to get the element of root, which we saw in the index, and it's going to render it over there. So what is main app or the app? So that you can find it by going to this path. So it says it's in the same folder file called app. So if I go into app, so here is our app. So it has a header, it has an image logo, it has something edit, app.js and save and reload. So what is getting rendered is all here. So if I go back to the app, you see all the things. So the logo, edit text, link, all that is over here. So that's how the app is getting rendered. So when I told I can rename it, so what I need to do is I also have to rename it here in app and to export. I'll explain what is export, import, all that. Once I do that, let me save all and let's see if, yeah, so that worked. So you can name it anything you want. It's not mandatory to have the same key names. Okay, so the components in React is of two types. So we have functional components, which is being used here. So it will be a component which is made up of a function, basically. Or you can say a component which doesn't require any state. When I say state, like you want to store some values or keep some values, and that changes based on your actions. So if you don't require an app or a component to keep state, then you can go for function components. And normally function components are lightweight, and the recent trend is to use function components. We have another component type called app class components. So those class components are something uh, like it's a bit heavyweight because there you can use state and you can store and maintain those states. So I'll show you the difference between function component and main component. So first let's get rid of this main app and let's create a new one. What I'll do is I'll create a file over here called component dot. So I can give JS, but I prefer to use JSX. So there is not much difference between JS and JSX. So if you are using a React app, React understands JSX. Okay, if you try to do the JSX in Angular or Vue.js, it might not work. You will have to configure it. But React understands JSX. So it's basically like developer point of view. If you want to tell the component is made from React or something, then you can go with JSX. So I normally go with the JSX file. And JSX initially the purpose was so when you try to create an app, so if you have a function, JavaScript function, and if you have all these HTML elements in JavaScript, it might not get highlighted in the editor. So to make it more editor friendly, they started with JSX, and JSX was understood by many of the editors, and they were highlighting the HTML tags. But now if you see, if you even create a component in JS, it highlights the HTML element. So all that was overcome. So now practically we can say there's no difference between JS and JSX in a React app. But only thing is that when we see JSX, we can tell it's purely React components or React functionalities being done there. So what I'll do in the new component is I will add React, nothing else. React, and I need to import it from React. So I want to create a class component, as I told. So it starts with something called class. So why I imported is because you are going to do something with React, you need to import React first. I believe this is there in most of the scripting or um, even the object-oriented languages. So you import some of the features which you want to from libraries or components which you want, you import it, and that's what I'm doing. So I will name it as my new component. And since this is a class component, it needs to be extended from a component. It's unlike our functional component. So there it was just plain function, what you saw, the function with the name of the, this is the name of the component and it is like a function. So that is a functional component and this is a class component. Here you need to extend it from the component class, which is also part of the React library. So if I click component in the IntelliSense, it will automatically add it in the import. So that's all from the VS Code intelligence. So it does all work. Once you do that, it is must, you need to render the component. So you need to have a method called render, and the render should return something. You can even return a blank div, element or any value. It should return. So basically, we have a component now. Now, only thing is that I need to export it to tell React that I have created an app. Now I want it to be used in the index or any other place. So to do that, I need to export it. So I do export default. So default is saying like I have a single component which needs to be exported. So you can write multiple components within a page. So in that case, default is not suitable. Since I'll be having a single component, so I'll just give default export of the same component. So the name should match over here. Okay. Once I do that, I'll just have a string with the name my new component. And what I'll do now is in the index, I'll try to bring that my new component. So VS Code automatically picks up any new component got created, it automatically shows in the IntelliSense. And once you click enter, it automatically imports it. So you don't have to write. So there are some times when VS Code doesn't do that. So you need to check, you need to validate before running it. So I'll just save the entire thing and see what's happening. So it's 3000. I go back and you see my component got rendered. So let's play with this now. So what I'll do is I will create an app which has a state. Okay, so like so I'll try to create a constructor. So constructor is a method which will be called only once for this component in its life cycle. So what I'll do is component props. So props is like properties or parameters which will be passed to this component of props. I want this to be available in my component. So for that, this is something like uh, the current context. So that's what this means. Like it is a context of this component. So in this component, I want to create a state. So state is a reserved keyword. So you, when you want to create variables inside a component or anything, make sure you don't name it as state or something because that's a reserved keyword. So I will keep the state as an object which has some values like age. Okay, let's say age is 20 and name is my name, which is of string type. So this is a component which has a state, and the state has two variables, age and name. Right. So even if I save now, nothing's going to happen. The component is going to the if you want to see the change, you need to use this state. Right? So move the text. What I'll do is just put a p tag. I'll interpolate the state. So interpolation means you want to print the state, the value variable in line to the HTML. So it's called interpolation. You can call it, I mean, if you, it's no problem, you can just call it whatever you want. So I'll just try to print the state. So interpolation, a main thing is that you need, it should be inside the flower bracket. You shouldn't miss that. If you miss that, it will straight away throw compiler error. So it won't build, the application won't build. So let me try to see if this values get printed in the component. Just save it. Yeah, so you see over here. So we have an app which is using a state and it's getting rendered. Now, what I'll do is I'll create another child component which will be part of this main component. Any question? So what I'll do is I'll create one more file in the same folder. Say child. I want to use the keyword. So let's say I want to name it as employees.jsx. Okay, just make it smaller case. So normally in client sides, we just go with the smaller case in naming. And I'll do the same stuff again, import React, React, and create a functional component this time. So since I want to create employees, okay, I named it wrong. That's okay. Name it right over here. Employees. Functional component. So functional component is simple. You just have to create a function and export it default. Is now I want to return. So here, when you create a functional component, one thing you can notice is you don't have to render the component. So that's another difference. So you just have to return something from a functional component. What I'll do is just the div. It's giving me error. Why is it okay? Let me quickly see. It's okay. So the brackets, the braces, basically. If I'm using the curly braces for return, so it should be a parenthesis. Remove the curly braces. Okay. Yeah, now it's all looking good. And let's just put a text called child component. Okay. And save it. So if I save it, nothing happens in the app because I'm not yet using this child component anyway. So if I want to use it, let's say I want to use it here. So I cannot use it in the index. I mean, I can use it, but then my new component won't be available. So this was intended for the child component for my new component. So let's use it in the main component. I want to use employees over here. So once I clicked enter, you see employees got imported. So want to be inside this. Let's see what happens when I save. So you see it got rendered, the child component. So we now have a class component, which is having a child component, which is a functional component. And now we know how to set a state. Okay, so now let's see if we can pass the state value inside this child component. How to do that? can do is there are a couple of ways you can do it. So you can either create a property for this component. So the component property, what I would give is, let's say details. It can be anything. You can name it anything. It's up to you. And what I want to, so if you are going to pass the state, right, you need to again send it as interpolation. So I want to pass the entire state. Okay, so I want to send the entire state to this child component. And I don't want these things over here, and I want those things to be here. So what I'll do is remove the child component text, and I will create the p tags over here. So to use the state which is getting passed from the parent to child, I first need to get the props. So that's a reserved keyword. Let's use the props to print it. So props dot details. So it might not show in the IntelliSense, but I know it because I I just typed it. So if you type it like this, it is taking the it is taking it as string. So like I told you, you need to interpolate it. So interpolation works with flower brackets. So that's age and same interpolation props dot details dot name. I hope everyone understood how details is coming. It's coming because I'm passing the state to the employees props, which is in the details. So if it was something different, let's say king, queen, whatever, you can give it any name. So then I'll have to make it props dot king, queen, right? So let me see. I don't know if this will work in first run. Let's see. Okay, it works. See? So if you doubt if it is working or not, just comment it out for a minute and see what happens. So I just commented the thing and nothing is there because there's nothing else in the main component. So if I uncomment it back and if I see what is getting rendered, it's rendering the age and name. So now you see how data is getting passed from and how state is getting passed. Now what we'll do is we'll try to change the data. Okay, so let's update the data. So what I'll do is I'll put a button. So this is one of the things which I like to do. So button which on click need to do something. And let's say it increases the age. So add age. It's just a name of the button, add age. And the method. So I need to create a function to do that. So this dot, not it created a method, but let's add here like add age, increase age. That's it. So I need to create a method with this name in the same name. So I'm using an arrow function to do this. So if you are wondering in JavaScript, if you don't see this type, it's not new, but ES6 has got this arrow function. You can learn about it. So it's something like if you write a function like this, it is similar. Like if you can write it in the similar way. Okay. Not much big difference in that. So this is the function which will get called when I click on the button. So what I'll do is I need to increase the age on click of that. So to get the age, so I will first get the state. right? So I need to get age from state. This is how we try to get the state variables. So you assign it to a variable in curly braces, or you can directly put it like dot state dot age equal to some name by variable. Okay, that also you can do, but let's do it the right way. So let age equal to this and age equal to age plus 1. Once age is added, I need to set it back to the state. So for that, we have a reserved function called set state. So this will set the state. So set state, how it behaves is if you just pass a single field of the state, it will just update that state, keeping the other state whatever it was. So what I mean is if I give age is age. So it's basically this age is getting updated to the age state variable. Okay. Or to make it simpler, what I'll do is let's go right let new age equal to this dot state. So this is for the understanding purpose I'm writing. New age equal to new age plus 1. So this new age, I want to set it as the age in the state. So let's see what happens. So let's save it. So I got the button called add age, and now if I click on it, you see it's getting added. So that's how you do binding. That is one way binding. Now, if you want to do a two-way binding, so okay, I have 10 more minutes. Before I run out of time, let me show that too. Let's say I have a text box. So input control type equal to text. That's the input for value. I'll put it as equal to this dot state dot name. Okay. So I just created a text box and it has the value as name. So by default, it should just show me the name in the text box. Yeah, so it's just showing me that. So I can't change it on it because I've not done that part, changing the name. So to do that, you need to add a method for that. So on change event, so you need to call the on change event and this dot change to create a method which is going to change the name of the state. So let me create a function with yeah. So and this function will just set state. What will it set? It will set the name. So where do I get the value of text box to the function? How do I send it? So you need to send it through parameters. So I can give it any name I want, even value, whatever is preferred for you. So if I keep value, it's a control which we will get as a parameter. So what happens is the input on change event will send this entire element as parameter. So I will keep it as element as parameter because that's the correct naming parameter. So element dot target dot think like how did I know it is target dot value. So normally for input controls, this is how we fetch the value from input. So elements target. So target is this input, and what is the value field of that target. So you will understand more when I try to run this. Let me run it. So by default, it shows the current state, which is having my name. So if I change it, you see it will also update over here because that is also getting rendered from the state. So if you see that, so I can give it a tab. So that's how you do two-way binding in React.